Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a project update video for this 1/6 scale M4A3 105mm Sherman tank. Since the last video, the model has went through a lot more progress and is currently ready for painting. Start with the tank's hull. We can see that the addition of the tank's side view mirrors have been added. These side view mirror mounts themselves are all fabricated out of aluminum and resin and are fully functional. They pivot and telescope. These mirrors will receive on the inside portion here a real glass reflective mirror that will be positioned in here. This will be done after the model is painted. M4 Shermans did have side view mirror mounts located here on the sides of the hull. There are these two little metal brackets that the mounts would secure to. Now, mostly these were just used for transit use, and due to their fragile nature, they would be kept inside the vehicle when the tank would enter combat because they were very easily broken. However, I like to add these to my model because it adds for a nice unique piece of detailing that is pretty much overlooked. Moving our way to the bow hatches, we can see that the periscopes have their brass brush guards added. These brush guards are all fabricated out of brass rod and are soldered together. They even have their resin bolt head fastener detail, which on the real guard is what mounts it to the periscope plate here. Moving our way to the turret, we can see that all the turret detailing has been added. The turret itself has a rough cast texture appearance added, as well as the side of the turret here was built up using plastic and epoxies. On these late production M4 Sherman tank turrets, there was integral armor built into the turret casting. This was missing from the kit turret, and to add it, several layers of plastic and epoxies were built up, giving me the bulge located here. This is most noticeable under the turret here. If I turn the turret, you will see this little overhang, and this little overhang here is actually the bolt-up turret. Another modification that had to have been made to the kit turret was the reduction of the tank's bustle angle. Originally, the bustle was pretty boxy in shape and was, as I mentioned earlier, slightly too high. If you looked at the original bustle, it probably stood above maybe 1/4 of an inch more than it is now. This was altered by first putting a large incision in the kit turret and mounting two metal straps that bolted the top of the bustle here to the wall of the bustle. By bolting it down, it was able to lower the angle, and then all this was covered up with the bodywork. This gave the bustle the proper appearance that it has now. In doing that, the kit radio well and the secondary radio antenna spot had to have been replaced. To replace the main radio well, a PVC tube was added in place, plugged, and was built into the turret bodywork. A similar procedure was also done with this position here, only a slab of resin was used rather than a PVC tube. Over here, underneath the tank's commander's copula, we can see a slight blister that overhangs from the turret casting. This blister was seen on several M4 Shermans and was not common on all models, but several turret castings did have this feature. So I decided to build it into my model as, again, a unique detail element. Onto the turret side detailings, we can see that the lift hooks have been added. These turrets have 3 lift hooks, 1 in the center and 2 near the bustle. These lift hooks are a new addition to the East Coast Armory product line and are specifically designed for 75mm turrets. I also have the hull versions of the U-hooks as well. In addition to the other details, the tank's 75mm pistol port or spent shell ejector hatch has also been added. This hatch is resin and is full function. It also has full detailing, including the lock lever. As we move our way back, we can see the tank's 50 caliber storage equipment. These two pieces of angle iron here are where the 50 caliber's barrel would clamp in when it was removed from the receiver. Over here, we can see the storage panel. The M23 cradle would lock into this position here, and the barrel cooling sleeve, that part with the holes in it, would be positioned here and will be clamped down. I have a small resin clamp that will be added to this little piece of metal here, and this will also be able to help secure the barrel. If I desired, I could actually mount the 50 caliber in the storage position. Moving our way up, we can see here the tank's MP48 spring antenna base. The antenna base is full functional in that it has a real spring that keeps it flexible, like the real one. The spring's antenna itself, I went with smaller segmented style antenna. Where the segments meet, you will see two knurled attachments, and this goes all the way down to the antenna mount right here. Moving our way here, we can see the auxiliary antenna base mount. Now, since this tank only has one radio, this mount is not needed and it is plated over. Now, note that this position here is only for a spare antenna base, not for the gun mount. A lot of people mistaken this position here for a pintle mount source because of the resemblance of the pintle mount. As we can see here, the pintle mount has a square box and a shaped base with 4 bolts on it. A lot of people see this square shape with 4 bolts and they assume that this is where the pintle mount goes. That is incorrect. This is only for the antenna base. Moving our way to the center of the turret, we can see here the tank's oval loader's hatch. The loader's hatch is also an EastCoastArmory.com component and has real springs here that actually help aid with opening the hatch. Hatch is open, it has full interior detailing, and a lot of these details will be painted more thoroughly once the tank is painted. On moving our way to the front of the tank's turret, we can see here is the tank's 50 caliber storage travel lock. This travel lock would be used when the gun is in the pintle mount. We could also see here a new resin air intake insert, as well as the gunner's periscope guard box with periscope interior, and commander's rangefinder. Rangefinder is fully detailed and has all fastener details included. The tank's searchlight was also added. The searchlight is an improved version of the searchlight which has just been added to ECA. This searchlight here is actually casted all in clear resin, and because of that, there's no need to paint or insert a new lens. You just paint around, you paint the rest of the searchlight and the lens remains clear, and because of that, you have a very realistic looking appearance to it. The searchlight itself is fully pivoting and is fully detailed. A small chain and cap will be added after the model is painted. In addition to the other detailing, I was also able to add the turret's cast foundry marks and cast numbers, and over here would be the smoke mortar. On our way to the tank's commander's copula, I went with the standard late single hatch EastCoastArmory.com commander's copula. The kit is all resin and has a full interior detailing. Over here we can see the addition of the Panzerworks periscope mount. A periscope insert will be added after the tank is painted. We can see here all the periscope detailing inside the copula that the commander would use to look out through these vision blocks here. In addition to adding all the details to the tank's turret, I was also able to permanently mount the turret to the tank's chassis. The way I have done this is with a simple design that uses just a basic bolt and a piece of aluminum. The bolt here is just bolted to the bottom of the turret and then is then bolted to the bottom of this aluminum here. This very simple design is very cost effective and is very efficient in keeping the turret securely mounted to the tank's chassis, but also allows it to spin 360 degrees without any issues. Last but not least, I will now move to the tank's 105mm gun. This part here is probably the most important part of this entire build, because this here is what really distinguishes this tank from a standard 75mm Sherman tank. The 105mm is a new conversion kit that is being offered by EastCoastArmory.com. To look at in better detail, the kit gives you the rotor drum, the mantlet, a .30 caliber barrel stub, which will be added to the model once it's painted, the 105mm gun barrel. The gun itself is very highly detailed and features all of the details found on the actual vehicle. Here we can see the molded in cast texture and foundry marks. We also have cast numbers along with the foundry marks. All fasteners are represented, as well as the detailing that is found on the rotor drum itself. All appendage surfaces are rounded off and blistered. We also have an elevated surface here for the optic, as well as, again, rough cast texture. Here we can see the nice crisp detail for the tank's rotor. Moving our way to the back of the turret with the 105mm set is the tank's secondary air blower. This rest in piece here is standard with the kit, and all 105mm Sherman tanks were equipped with this over here. This is one defining feature that makes a 105mm Sherman a 105mm Sherman. The standard Sherman tank equipped with the 75mm gun does not have this extra blower fan. In addition to the tank's rear blower, we can also see here the tank's shorty elevated .50 caliber pintle mount. This component here is exclusively seen on 105mm Sherman tanks that are equipped with the late style single hatch copula. Prior to this, if this tank had the earlier split hatch copula, this piece would not be needed, as the split hatch copula has a .50 caliber pintle mount built into the rim of it. Since the later copula does not have that, the pintle mount was moved to this location over here. Now, however, on tanks with 105mm howitzer, because of the extra blower, the pintle mount needed to be elevated over the blower, and that's what this component is here. This piece here elevates the gun mount so that air can still be drawn into the blower fan. Then the pintle mount is a lot shorter than that of a standard Sherman tank. If I remove these 4 bolts here, the gun mount will pivot backward for the storage position. As I quickly remove this last bolt, or lock nut, the gun mount pivots back into the stowed position. To make the piece as if it was, in combat with ready for the machine gun, it just flips upward, and these 4 little bolts here simply get inserted back into the hole. For the tank's machine gun, I will be using the Dragon DML plastic .50 caliber kit, as well as an Armor Packs M4A3 cradle mount kit. This is the kit here. I will be starting it soon. I've built several of these in the past, and they are very, very nice and are worth every penny that they cost. The kits themselves are all white metal, and I shall have some more info on that on another review. The next step for this model is that it will now go into its painting processes, and that will be discussed in another video. So with that concludes this project update video for this 1/6 scale static M4A3 105mm Sherman tank. For more update parts and to check out other builds, go to EastCoastArmory.com. Thank you.